Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the Marketplace. Coming up, an ambitious target, National Insurance Commission resolves to increase insurance coverage to 60% by 2028.
In the next 5 years, we are expecting to take this to about 60%. And this is the percentage of the population that is covered by insurance.
Also coming up, Food and Beverages Association joins other business groups to demand review of 3 tax measures introduced in the 2023 budget.
We are of the firm belief that the fight for corruption can succeed in this country if taxes reduce drastically. Some of the taxes are nuisance taxes, they can be cancelled.
And this afternoon on the Joy Business Summit, we discuss how businesses can build cyber-resilient systems to weather attacks. My name is Daryl. Kwawu. Thanks for joining us. Details coming up. And thanks for staying with us. The National Insurance Commission has resolved to increase insurance coverage to 60% by 2028. According to the Acting Commissioner, Michael Ando, tailored products targeted at the informal economy are being developed to serve the needs of the informal sector. He has been speaking at the 2023 International Conference on Inclusive Insurance, co-hosted by the National Insurance Commission and its local partners.
The 19th International Conference on Inclusive Insurance is a gathering of insurance experts from over 50 countries across the globe. The goal is to discuss and identify ways of accelerating the growth and economic viability in inclusive insurance for emerging markets. With insurance coverage hovering around 40%, efforts are being made through tailored insurance products to the informal economy to expand coverage to 60% by 2028. Michael Ando is the Acting Commissioner of National Insurance Commission.
In the next 5 years, we are expecting to take this to about 60%. And this is the percentage of the population that is covered by insurance. We sometimes get obsessed with insurance penetration, and I understand that is how much money insurance is making. This is how many people is insurance protecting. And I think lives are also important. So we've been focusing at the individual personal levels with inclusive insurance for some time. Our current phase of inclusive insurance, we are looking at micro and small enterprises, micro and small businesses. The carpenters, the masons, they are the biggest employer in the system. They do run risks. The fact that they don't have insurance now doesn't mean they don't have, they have their own risks. It's just that we haven't addressed those risks. So that's exactly what we are doing now.
Minister of Finance Ken Oforiatta called for the establishment of a standing committee to ensure utmost inclusive insurance.
I charge the chair of the NIC, the president of the association, and the brokers that we really ought to have a standing committee permanently to really delve into the issue of inclusive insurance so that we'll be ahead of the game.
The Vice Chair of Munich Re Foundation, Dirk Reinhardt, called for the development of the insurance value chain to ensure the needs of consumers are met.
Having insurance is fine. What if the insurance takes 6 months to pay after a disaster? Then people have sold their assets to recover, lost their income, sold their animals, for example. So what I want to say is we really need to dive deep into what does the market need? How do people work? What is their risks? And how can we really serve them so that we make them more resilient, and really insurance contributes to sustainable economic development.
The International Conference on Inclusive Insurance is organized by Munich Re Foundation and the Micro Insurance Network, with the National Insurance Commission of Ghana, the Ghana Insurance Association, and the Insurance Brokers Association of Ghana as local hosts.
Now, the Food and Beverages Association has joined other business groups to impress on government the need to review the 3 tax measures introduced in the 2023 budget. They say Ghana has tried the option of higher taxes for decades, yet the economy keeps failing. The government in the mid-year budget introduced new taxes such as the Growth and Stability Levy to shore up revenue mobilization. President of the association, John Awuni, told the media that businesses are overburdened with taxes.
We are of the firm belief that the fight for corruption can succeed in this country if taxes reduce drastically. Some of the taxes are nuisance taxes, they can be cancelled. The tax base can be broadened. The tax net can be broadened. There are some taxes that can be increased. For instance, we have some vehicle income tax. Taxi driver, whatever, they pay like 12 cedis per quarter. They can pay far more than that. And when we talk about revenue, from the private sector perspective, we are of the belief that revenue does not necessarily come from taxation. You can equally have more revenue by making sure that you have value for your expenditure. Cut down your expenses. Make sure that your expenses are put in the right channel. Make sure that prices are done well. If you earn a salary of 2,000 cedis and you go into a restaurant where the buffet plate is 300 cedis or 500 cedis, that's your own business, because you can equally go to where you can have the same food at 50 cedis or 60 cedis to buy. But in the case of Ghana, it appears that we are looking at one way over the years, that the only way we can mobilize more revenue is to increase what taxes.
Meantime, the business community is calling on the government to expedite talks with its external creditors in securing finance and assurance in order for the country to get the second tranche of the IMF bailout package ahead of the Christmas season. They are worried any delay in the disbursement could have a major impact on the exchange rate during the festive season. Speaking to Joy Business, President of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, Dr. Joseph Obeng, said securing the fund will go a long way to ease the demand for the dollar during the festive season and consequently keep prices relatively stable.
It's very important that government do everything under its capacity to make sure that the second tranche come in time, especially when at this time we are going for the Christmas purchases. It means that import is going to go up and is going to also make the exchange rate, if it is not well managed by Bank of Ghana. We have this perennial problem where December, January, and then early February, we have the exchange rate going up. At this time round, we have to take the lessons of last year and manage the foreign exchange situation well so that we do not go back. That's my prayer, that we are able to manage. But I'm not also seeing excessive importation due to the effects of the reasons that I've already alluded. There are low turnovers, the depression of our capital and all that. I do not foresee that we'll do any excessive importation this time around. And then things like speculation should also be managed. Most times when there's a slight increase in the forest, we talk too much to the extent that it gets out of hands. These things does not work when there's too much noise around it. So we should be able to know how to manage speculation when there's the least increase in the dollar, so that we do not experience what happened during the previous year.
Now, customs officials at various border towns are calling for more resources to deal with traders using unapproved routes for smuggling. According to the second-in-command at the Kwawu border checkpoint, Emmanuel Parker, this is necessary for the team to ensure the appropriate revenues accrued for the state. He was speaking to Joy Business at the Dabala border post, where the team intercepted some 6,000 pieces of mobile phones and over 11,000 pieces of wax prints smuggled into the country without payment of duty. Here's more.
The wax prints were intercepted at the border post of Dabala in the Volta region when officials of the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority were on duty. The importer failed to pay the assigned duties on the products, which is estimated at about 1.3 million cedis. Meanwhile, on a separate operation, officers at the Japon post also intercepted 6,000 pieces of mobile phones which are yet to be evaluated. Daryl Abdallah is the officer in charge, Eastern Corridor Monitoring Team.
11,000 full pieces imitation wax. We're talking around 1.3 million Ghana cedi without penalty. So if they're imposing 100%, that will be times 2.
Of taxes that was supposed to pay.
Yes, yes. Normal taxes to 1.3 million Ghana cedis on this.
What about the mobile phones?
The mobile phones, we are yet to get a value because we wanted them to pick a sample so that we'll get the value. We don't have all the values unless we go to the sector.
Second in command for the Kwawu border checkpoint, Emmanuel Parker, has been highlighting the need for more resources to officials along the border post, since many of such traders try to evade duties and use those areas.
This one we were told they loaded elsewhere, and then the goods that were paid from the baggage were sent out and then added onto it. And then it makes it look as if Kwawu cleared these things. But this is the problem we are having. We need logistics. We need men to come back because the borders are vast and they are porous. And when we close one side, another portion is opened. And before we get to know it's open, there would have been a lot of goods coming through. We do arrest rice, oil, and the like. And we have a number of informations that are, Togo is now decongesting their port, so a lot of vehicles are likely to come in, and we are trying our best.
The GRA is undertaking an evaluation to determine the penalties and duties to be paid on the mobile phones.
You're watching the Marketplace. Time now for the Joy Business Summit. Today, putting the spotlight on cyber attacks. The global cybersecurity landscape has seen increased threats in recent years. Cyber criminals took advantage of misaligned networks as businesses moved to remote work during and after the pandemic. Now, in 2020, malware attacks increased by 358% compared to 2019. Cyber attacks globally increased by 125% through 2021, with a seemingly increasing trend in recent times. Now, today on the Joy Business Summit, we want to take a look at why businesses should be concerned about building cyber resilient systems, whether attacks. I'm joined in studio by Ni Jan Mensah, who is Principal Cybersecurity in Novari. Great to have you in studio with us to talk about this today. And I mean, reading those statistics is very worrying. It's very alarming. Why are we seeing an increase in cyber security attack or cyber attacks? And why should businesses be concerned about cyber security?
Okay, thank you very much. Before I touch on that, we need to understand what is cyber security.
Right.
To a layperson, cyber security is just the application. You applying technology, you applying the processes that you have, you are applying the procedure and also people, so that you can manage the negative attacks that will occur within your organization, so that your organization can keep on embarking on the mission that they seek to achieve, and also the organization to meet its organization objectives. Now, the reason why we have increase in cyber attacks recently has to do with a lot of digitization. Some people call digital transformation. Now, according to Forbes, in 2001, we have 10% of business assets being digitized. Okay? And this resulted in cybercrime. We have a cybercrime loss of $178 million.
Right.
Now, in 2019, we have about 85% of business assets digitized. So you could see that a lot of assets have been moved into the cyberspace or the internet. And this resulted in the cybercrime loss of $3.5 billion.
Wow.
So you could see, the more that you move your asset into the digital space, the more that you are prone to cyber attacks. Because we have a lot of touch points that these attackers can use to attack you.
Okay, and so let's talk about a bit more about the threats. I mean, you talk about points that the attackers use. What are the threats to look out for?
Okay. Now, based on the kind of work that I provide for companies, some of the threats that I've seen, I just want to contextualize it in Ghana. Some of the threats that I've seen so far has to do with ransomware attack.
Okay.
So what the ransomware attack does is that it's a form of malware. To a lay person, what the ransomware attack does is that it will disrupt the business processes that are running on system. So you have a business process, and these business processes are running on system. And if there's disruption in the business processes, it means that there will be loss of money.
Right.
But the ransomware people, what they will do, the ransomware attack will say, okay, I've disrupted the business processes that are sitting on a particular system, but I'll need to demand a ransom from you. And for you to pay me, I want you to pay me using what? Bitcoin.
Wow.
Okay, because I don't want to be what? Traced. Okay. Another threat that we've seen based on the kind of work that we do for companies in Ghana has to do with something called denial of service. Ransomware attack is similar to denial of service. You know, the ransomware attack is asking for a ransom. But denial of service is we are disrupting the business processes. So you have a lot of financial people. I mean, it can be a financial institution, it can be a small and medium sized company. They have business processes that are sitting on a particular process. So the moment I disrupt that particular business process, it means that you cannot deliver services to our customers. Then we say that we have a denial of service. Another thing that is occurring a lot in Ghana is data breaches, but we don't normally report it. Now, data breaches, we have data breaches that occur, but we have several categories of them. We have data breaches that will result to maybe you doing something that accidental. So someone comes unintentional, someone does something, and there will be a breach. We have a data breach also that occurs that is what? Intentional. And we have data breach that occurs through social engineering. Some people call it conning. So conning is really, really big now. Whereby psychological manipulation of people into divulging information so that they can use it against the organization so that they can achieve their objectives.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you about what businesses can do to be resilient, against these attacks. But I also wanted to find out first, though, what kind of damage these things have on businesses, these attacks.
It has profound damage to companies. But interestingly, you know, in the Western world, cybersecurity is a business issue. So at the board level, they discuss cybersecurity stuff. But in our part of the world, in Ghana, Bank of Ghana is pushing for it. So now it's gaining some kind of attention. But we are not still there. People don't see cybersecurity risk as what? A business issue. But you have fines. Okay, you have reputational damage, so it's huge. So it's hard time that business starts seeing cybersecurity as what a business issue and start discussing it at the board level. Let me give you a statistics.
All right.
Target, a retail company in Ghana, a retail company in US. Okay, they got attacked. Okay, and when they got attacked, what happened was that they did some kind of analysis and they realized, okay, they need to fire 7 of their board members. So they fired 7 of their board members. Out of the 10, they fired 7 out of them. And also they fired their CISO. Okay. Then after that particular incident, people start taking cybersecurity seriously in the Western world. So in the Western world, it's a very big thing. You can lose your job. But in our part of the world, now the Bank of Ghana is trying to force things.
Yeah, and we don't have a choice but to pay attention to it because we are going digital, and these that means we are at risk of such attacks going forward. So, what can businesses do to build resilient systems that sort of curb these attacks or just totally prevent them?
Okay, before we talk about the resilient aspect, we need to know what resilience is when we talk about cyber resilience. You know, when we talk about cyber resilience, what we are talking about, the organization or you as a business, your ability to respond rapidly. Okay? Now, when you respond rapidly, so I'm giving it in a series of categories. When you respond rapidly, how can you restore to a very good state? Now, when you restore to a very good state, how can you manage the negative outcome that will come from it? And the last but not least is how to ensure that you do something called lessons learned so that you prevent that particular incident from reoccurring. So based on the categories that I've explained, you could see that for us to respond rapidly, we need to put policies, we need to put processes in place. And business leaders need to start taking cybersecurity work seriously. They need to put in a lot of money They need to invest in people. You need to get what? Competent person to manage your cybersecurity program within your organization. Okay? Now you have business continuity. All these things are a little bit technical, but in a nutshell, that is it. But when it comes to manage negative outcome, what kind of controls will you put in place so that you can prevent these people? Because we cannot have 100% security. So definitely all the controls that you put in place, people will bypass through all the controls. But when they bypass through all the controls, your ability to respond quickly and also do some kind of lessons learned, so that these incidents you are already prepared for when they come back.
So that's what it means to be resilient.
Yes. So based on these four categories, you need to comply with all these four categories for you to be called that. For you to be said that your organization is what? Resilient.
So any other things you can do to build the systems and prevent cyber?
A lot of you focus on system. Okay, like what I said, you have all the technology in place to protect people, okay, or to protect the attackers from attacking your organization. But if you don't have the ability to respond and recover quickly, and also you don't do lessons learned, it means that you could see that these activities are what? People-based. Okay, a lot of us focus on the technology aspect. We forget to rely on the people. That's why I said, you need to ensure that you get qualified and competent person to manage your cybersecurity program. And some people also try to do some kind of awareness, also doing some kind of training in the organization. Yeah.
Nijan Mensah, happy to have you in studio to talk about cybersecurity. I don't know if you're going to have you tomorrow, but I'll confirm that. But hey, it's great to have your insight into cybersecurity, cyber attacks, cyber threats, and I'm hoping that businesses that are tuning in are going to make some real important decisions. I appreciate your time. Principal Cybersecurity in Novari, Nijan Mensah, I appreciate your time in the studio. Well, so a report by GSM Association shows that in Africa, online retail as a proportion of total retail sales remains much lower than in other regions around the world, indicating that the continent's MSMEs are not fully leveraging e-commerce opportunity for growth. The report was launched on the sidelines of MWC Kigali during an event hosted by African Business. So here to discuss this, Henry Kobler, lead for Eyes of Africa. Good afternoon to you, Henry. So tell me a bit more about the report, what the report says about e-commerce in Africa, and does the outcome surprise you?
So, generally, the report was sort of carried out looking a bit around e-commerce and its effect and impact on commerces generally in Africa. And so we're looking at how businesses are sort of taking advantage of e-commerce and are making regular use of the platforms to basically enhance their digital footprint and also enhance sales when it comes down to digital platforms. And generally, it had digged into giving Africa a very low point when it comes down to how e-commerce is being used by SMEs, MSMEs. Generally in Ghana, in Africa, I think Nigeria and South Africa as well, based on the report.
Well, what are the teething problems? What are the challenges?
If you're looking at the challenges, you would have realized that, we're looking at limited financial resources, which comes to most of these e-commerce platforms. Generally, I've been in the e-commerce sector, and it's very expensive running an e-commerce platform. Generally, from end to end, it basically requires quite a lot of resources when it comes down to it, and much more financial resources, because you sort of have to sometimes even get to have warehouses available to stock some of the items. So it's much easier to have stock available to do deliveries as well. Generally, much of the resources happens to be human resources as well, digital skills when it comes down to being able to be online, fulfill orders and all of those things. Again, sometimes even looking at the cybersecurity point of it, those skills come into play. How do you ensure that you're having quite a number of people going through the processes without having to go through fraudulent activities? That comes into it. Generally, we also have some regulatory gaps that come in. Generally for some of the businesses to be able to have a full operation. In Ghana, we're sort of looking at how e-commerce basically kicks into some of the regulatory points in terms of the policies that are available to guide the processes from end to end. We're looking at the poor implementation of legislation as well. Sometimes when issues, when they arise in terms of content, in terms of fraud, in terms of even data protection that comes in. I mean, some of the poor implementation of the laws relatively deters people from sort of engaging in digital trade. I mean, if you're having issues, let's say fraud, you've been frauded on an e-commerce platform or on social media sales, I mean, and you don't even have to, you have to go through a very tedious process to recover your money. I mean, it becomes very difficult to sort of engage more in there. And I think that digital payments has also had a very slow pace when it comes down to online sales. Major of it, I can say, is challenges when it comes down to logistics and delivery as well.
So what can be done? What can MSMEs do to leverage the e-commerce opportunity for growth? How can they be helped?
I mean, generally, first of all, you're getting into a platform, you might not necessarily have all the skills and knowledge. And so the very first thing is, I think that reskilling. Generally, people could have their stuff being looked into, taking some courses to sort of understand how to run a whole process online, understanding how accounting processes or logistic processes, fulfillment processes happens generally on e-commerce platforms, and being effective on e-commerce platforms as well. So that becomes a very first point. I think that one of the things that government could do is to really look at some level of effective policies that are going to be available. I mean, one of the policies that is deterring people from sort of pushing in online is sort of the e-levies and then the taxes that comes in with buying online. And generally, if you're looking at how those ones impact on the sales, I think that it also gives a very negative impact. We could look at policies in terms of how to reduce some of the taxes when you're sort of doing online sales and online platform, what you call it, purchases. I think it comes to help a bit in terms of financial platform adaptations, where it could help in the adaptation of e-commerce platform generally.
All right. Henry Kobler, thank you so much, lead for Eyes of Africa. Always appreciate your insight here on the marketplace. And that's our program, everyone. There is more news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Top story there, outlook of African economies in 2024 signal gradual strengthening. That's according to the IMF. You can read more about that, myjoyonline.com/business. We'll be back same time tomorrow.